As the sun goes out, all I feel is pain. Thousands upon thousands of years, I've seen it all. I felt it all, and the only constant in all my years is suffering. Recently, I've noticed something odd. It's something that's hard to describe, but it just keeps coming up. The most recent time I've noticed it is in a book called The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. Confusing title aside, the book focuses on a group of immigrants in the San Francisco area called the... oh no, I've only read it up to this point. The Hmong people? I think it's a silent H, just like how the H in Baldr is also silent. No, I don't know where you'd put the H. I guess put it wherever your heart desires it. Anyways, the Hmong people moved there from East Asia after being chased out by two occupying governments. Once moved, their steadfast culture did not assimilate easily, resulting in various disputes between them and other California residents. This came up especially in healthcare, with the Hmong people believing in spirits, shamans, and in sacrificing animals, which is where the title of the book comes in. A girl named Leah Lee is born in this community. Unfortunately, Leah suffered from seizures as a young child. Without knowledge of seizures, the Hmong people believed that spirits taking away Leah's soul was what was causing the seizures. That's what the "you fall down" part of the title means. I personally would say that a seizure is more than just falling down, but that is just me. Regardless, Leah continued to have seizures until she suffered an extremely bad one, a grand mal seizure. It was terrible, and it put her into a coma that she would never wake from. This is a passage from after she fell into her coma that was particularly notable to me. Leah lay curled next to her mom in bed, a slight, silent husk who hardly seemed big enough to contain her family's load of memory, anger, confusion, and grief. She lay suspended in time, growing only a few inches, gaining little weight, always looking far younger than her age, while the Lee siblings, who still lived at home, grew up around her. This is where it hit me again. Isn't it ironic? Leah seemed to be permanently young, and yet it cost her everything. This idea is what fascinated me so, of maintaining life and youth through suffering, by exchanging happiness for longevity. That's not to say that that's what's happening in this case. Leah's health problems just caused her to develop slower, but that does not mean she really was younger in this instance. She would not actually lived longer from this. Regardless, this only brought it back to mind for me, as this idea has come up before. Think of Mikola the Kind, not gifted with eternal youth, but cursed with it, a longevity fueled by pain, which seems so antithetical and so wrong. Why would pain ever make someone live longer? If anything, it should just shorten your life. We spend our whole lives avoiding pain because that's how we survive. But that's where I say, what if that's not true? What if the only way to live longer is to suffer? Of course, that's only a crazy idea that I'm only giving any of the time for my short life because it just won't leave my head and it refuses to pay rent, forcing me to examine it. Is there actually any truth behind it? Any science? Any reason? Starting off at the cellular level, there might be. As anyone who's done any work with cells in biology will tell you, cells can and will die at the most minor of inconveniences. But a recent study from 2017 was 8 years ago. They examined the cells of C. elegans, a roundworm, and found a way to prolong the life of cells. That method? Well, it has to do with the old powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. Did you know mitochondria have their own DNA? That's not actually all that relevant. I just thought it was a fun little factoid. Anyways, this study found that a signal from the mitochondria can help prevent the failure of protein folding quality control machinery in the cytoplasm that comes with aging. Okay, in actual English, that means that cells get worse at creating proteins as they get older, and that this signal can prevent the cells from degrading in this manner. This in turn can help prevent degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Huntington's, and Parkinson's. They even found that the cells of C. elegans aren't too different from humans. I personally wouldn't say that they look too similar, but again, what do I know? This does mean that these findings could become applicable to humans. This could help a lot, with the stated goal of the study being to help extend the quality of life of humans. But that begs the question, what is this mystery super signal from the mitochondria? Well, as some of you might have already preemptively guessed from the subject of the video, this signal is the one emitted by mitochondria when they are stressed. That's right, the signal is emitted when the mitochondria is put through some sort of pain or duress, and not when it is doing fine. Which this is fascinating, that it might be helpful to harm some cells in order to keep it alive, which is not what I would intuitively think. If you wanted an exact reason for why this happens, I couldn't tell you, and they couldn't find one. The best thing I could find on this is this sentence. The mitochondrial stress signal is actually interpreted by the cell and animal as a survival strategy. Which doesn't make sense to me as to how that would help, but let's just go with it. If you're still dubious to this idea, as I especially was at the start, here's a different paper showing that stimulation of more general stress pathways can reduce the risk of age-related diseases, otherwise known as extending life. So altogether, while it is a bit dubious as to if cells actually experience pain or suffering at all, as that may be an exclusively multicellular property, we do have something close, that at least on the micro scale, there's a kernel of truth to this whole idea, and that it might actually be beneficial to hurt something. Alright, this is a good spot. Please like, subscribe, please. Okay, thanks. Don't want to waste time. Moving away from the cellular scale and kind of bringing us back around full circle a bit, I want to go over something a bit different. I want to talk about things that don't so much as extend your life, but make you appear as if you were younger, even at great cost. The first one I found was that intense duress can actually delay puberty. Various factors such as severe malnutrition can cause this. It will not prolong life, only make them look childish for longer. The reason is pretty obvious. Growing up is hard, as most of us know, and requires a lot of food, as most moms would know. So if the body doesn't think it has enough to do that, it will try and prevent it, making the situation odd. It's a bit like Mikola mentioned at the beginning. Normally, a childlike appearance is associated with innocence, but from this lens, it can also be viewed from a perspective of trauma. Those two things are very different, so for them to collide like this gives a weird feeling, the kind of feeling that prompted this video. But of course, I would feel terrible if I didn't jump in here now. To any kids, do not even think of trying to do this on purpose. This kind of delayed puberty will cause many side effects, including reduced stature, increased risk of osteoporosis, infertility, and potential depression. Most likely no one even thought of it, but I felt I should say that just in case. I promise you, you will look way better healthy, rather than this fake sense of youthfulness. On the other end is probably a topic as real-world relevant as I've ever gotten on this channel. which is all those circulating ideas about preventing wrinkles and the like. Advice such as avoid the sun and avoid smiling to avoid wrinkles. Now, is this true? Kind of. The sun can cause skin damage, which can cause wrinkles. Smiling, on the other hand, does not cause wrinkles. It can only exacerbate them, but it doesn't cause them itself. Since this is the most real-world relevant thing I've ever done, I'm not going to kid around on this one. First of all, it is impossible to avoid wrinkles, so it's not even worth trying that hard to avoid them. Second, sun exposure is good for our health, and it's important to see the sun if you want to live, which that's pretty good reason. Third, as said earlier, this doesn't actually extend life at all, so it's not even good health advice. Finally, at least to me, wrinkles aren't really a sign of things getting worse. Instead, they're more memories. They're years of smiles etched into the skin, constant reminders of a life well lived, not really something to be avoided. Also, really quick, because I don't super want to do this, but if you're someone pushing ideas like these, please stop. You're profiting off of the insecurities of others and demonizing aging, which is the most natural thing alive. So please stop. Okay, bringing things back a bit, I want to talk about bears, which seems random, but just hear me out. You see, the objective of most life on Earth is to reproduce. However, reproduction is inherently very exhaustive and resource expensive. Whenever there's an abundance of resources, life will attempt to reproduce, but when there's not enough, life will try and preserve all of the resources it has and call upon various what this paper calls maintenance protocols. By preserving resources, life is trying to sustain itself until it can have the chance to reproduce, which means it's attempting to prolong its own life with these maintenance programs. A good example of this is with bears. You see, bears hibernate. Wow, I'm really dropping the truth bombs here, but when bears hibernate, they vastly lower their heart rate, body temperature, and consume no food or water for months on end. These are terrible conditions, but the bear withstands them and becomes resistant to damage and stress. It slows down their aging during this period to a certain degree, and all it takes to do this is some of the most harsh conditions the world has to offer. It's also been found that humans can do this to a certain degree. In times of starvation, the human body will go into severe calorie conservation mode. This means recycling everything, including old and dying cells. And as we've discussed in previous videos, some of these old and dying cells can cause aging-related diseases. So under severe duress, the body can kind of clean itself up, stopping dying cells from causing further damage, prolonging itself until the times aren't nearly as tough, which is honestly a very impressive thing that the body can do. But again, please don't starve yourself. It's not worth it. Alright, time to bring it all together. Does suffering prolong life? Well, there's a case to be made there, but the answer is not really. You see, the first point I made, that stress signals can cause the cells to live longer, well, in that same source, it also says that too much stress will cause the cell to almost immediately die. And I had to scroll through various other sources saying the opposite to even find that one source. And while it is interesting, a lot of things that you might call suffering don't help. For example, chronic pain is associated with decreased longevity, not increased. So I wouldn't go and make your life harder than it needs to be. Besides, even if it is true, is no sun worth a few more years with no wrinkles? I wouldn't say so. When you look back, it will not be the number of years that you treasure, but the quality of those years. Don't get me wrong, there will be pain in life. And while it might not help us live longer, pain and life are intertwined in an inseparable manner. But remember, it's worth it. And remember that when it hurts, this pain means I'm alive. This was your online friend. Baldr. Okay, time for the after video portion where I get to just talk about random other stuff. But here is where I feel I should clarify my position a bit. I'm not against prolonging life. In fact, I'm quite for it. If you've seen my Signs of Immortality video, it's quite clear that I believe that. But I merely wanted to say that not all prices are worth it to live a little longer. Also, I apologize a bit for the more serious portion in the middle, but it came up while I was researching and I would have felt bad if I didn't mention it and say what I needed to say about it. Legitimately, don't feel bad about getting older. It's fine. I mean, Uncle Iroh is old and he's like the coolest guy alive. I mean, I could just keep talking about him. He's ripped. He's so cool. He drinks tea. He's a firebender. He's a dragon.